internet friends, my name is Bay. Welcome back to the Shadowlands Alpha First Pass First Impressions coverage. The warrior concludes with the protection warrior. And actually, when I thought of what would be the most impactful things, when I told my artist, Sage, doing all the graphics here for the thumbnails and things, the little icons that I bet, what would be the most impactful changes right now? I was like, well, you know, Indomitable and Never Surrender got buffed. Sure, that seems like the pretty good jumping off point there. But lo and behold, what I have come to find out during all the testing today, that Protection Warrior has quite a number of little things across the board. Of course, I'll wrap up all of those herein, and of course the overall warrior adjustments there as well, and things that are coming to the warrior class. If you've missed the previous two videos, those are right here on the channel as well, on the playlist. Or if you want the entire very dry, long, throughout analytical deep dive testing VOD, or the somewhat goofy dungeon run we did today, then it's all in the channel guide. So go down in the video description box down below. The channel guide is linked right there, or ! guide over on my YouTube channel. But you'll also find down there, and you'll find that Pikachu is trying to use it as a shield, but he fell over. If you want to support the show, the stream, and everything in between in a more physical sense, and get yourself some bits and bobs and pieces and parts for your current or upcoming builds, I am a Corsair. It's upside down, but I know, but okay. And Elgato partner. I have been with them now for quite some time, and I've been a huge fan of their stuff. This is my keyboard box. I'm a fan of the K70 myself. But if you're looking for some upgrades for yourself for Shadowlands, if you're looking for any workflow improvements in a stream deck for all the macroing potential you have there, or looking for a new mouse that you need to have all those new key bindings for all those unpruned abilities coming back in Shadowlands, link is down below for 10% off your Corsair gear and your Elgato peripheral pieces and things of that nature, and free standard shipping to save you some money during all this crazy time. If you do check out and things are currently linking you away from Corsair, this is a very, you know, right in the moment kind of announcement. It's because of the current state of things, and sometimes shipping is going to be super delayed, or there are things that are out of stock. So I've had a couple people actually reach out to me asking, is something wrong with your Corsair link? It takes me away from the Corsair page. No, you go through my link and then you use the discount code at checkout. It's a two-step process, but if it actually wants you to go away from there, it's just because the Corsair warehouse directly is under inventory problems because of the state of the world. But those are all linked down below. And today we're talking about the Protection Warrior changes. I've got a lot of stuff to go through. All these warrior videos and the paladin videos have been a little bit lengthier because of how much stuff has been adjusted. And before anyone asks, this is the Mage Tower Flail and Shield. You can no longer get this in the game anymore, but it is the Mage Tower Protection Warrior Legion artifact skin. If you, of course, unlocked it, you can go get the other colors in the game, but it is not available to be unlocked anymore. So a bunch of core baseline things to go through. Challenging Shout is returning. The AoE taunt returns. 4-minute cooldown. Level 54. I actually could have used it today in the dungeon, but I forgot that it scales you up to 55, I believe. Halls of Atonement does, yeah. Or it was 52. They got scaled up. I think the other dungeon would have scaled us up higher, but I forgot about it. I could have used it. There was a bit of a derpy moment where I could have come in clutch. Rallying Cry is going to have 5% more health and temporary and maximum health, so it'll go up to 20%. That's, of course, across all warriors. And other things for the Prot Warrior baseline is you're going to have Hamstring, the 50% snare for 15, 10 rage for a little bit of physical damage. You do not have Piercing Howl like your DPS counterparts are going to have, but at least you can have this potentially help you kite a little bit if you need be. Also, Execute is back. This is the Arms Warrior Execute, and it actually hits pretty hard. It may have a baseline aura modifier behind it, because I got some pretty chunky executes in the dungeon footage, but of course only usable on mobs and enemies below 20% health. There's no, you know, massacre talent allowing you to do it any earlier. And of course, if the foe survives, 20% of the rage spent is refunded. and up to 40 rage is used to do maximum damage, which is a big change in how you might spend your rage, considering ignore pain is 40 rage and shield block is 30 rage. But that is if you're off tanking and the boss is in execute range and you don't need to use your rage for defensive purposes, then blast, I suppose. Or if the mob is about to die and you want to make sure it finishes it off, putting up a shield block or ignore pain might not be as worthwhile as just hitting execute, because you're a warrior, your execute's back. There you go. So the other thing about this too, I want to make sure I put a side note. There is the Revendreth Covenant ability. We're not really doing Covenant testing, but just to people were wasing about it today during the stream, so Calrel went and tested it. The Covenant ability version of this, the 80% above health and 20% below health, which also has like the Mind Blast or old school Smite damage reduction, like anti-shield barrier thing that stacks up on targets, is maybe a thing. It's a very aggressive use of your rage to do damage as well as reduce damage you take. And that's only if you go Revendreth. But again, I don't know. Things could change. So that's just an honorable mention that was brought up today. Additionally, Intervene is back. Not Intercept. Now, this brings up kind of a sticky point here, but this is different. So right now on live, you have an 8 to 25 yard range, 2 charge, 20-second cooldown, does light damage to an enemy, does the root, and then intercepts or use it on a friendly to intercept the one next melee or ranged attack within 10 seconds, as long as you stay within 10 yards. This one is 25 yard range, no minimum range, 30-second cooldown. Doesn't do any of the offensive nature because it's only defensively used, but it intercepts all attacks, ranged and melee, made against that target for the next 6 seconds. Now, this is not what it will look like on a protection warrior, but I did this on an arms warrior with Die by the Sword, just to put this in perspective of all the attacks you could, in this case for arms, parry. But now for prot, you can use it with your co-tank, you can do this in PvP, there's been some comments saying that you could be able to intervene with the shield block up and block rogue stuns. There's a lot of really crazy potential here that could be because of how this works versus the one attack or ranged or melee attack in the current intercept version. But that is, of course, to be determined. We'll have to see how that all hooks up right now. This does bring about a side point about your mobility as a prot warrior. And I will say there is a bit of a theme for the prot warrior right now. The overall theme, as we'll get through here, is that you basically lost damage but gained tankiness. You are definitely not going to see as much DPS as you are currently used to. You will be much tankier, I would imagine. And technically you gain some damage in the fact that you have execute now, and a lot more of your damage is being moved to revenge. But there is a real potential that you will immediately and early on feel that you can be tankier, but you will be doing less damage. And that is just how the protection warrior is going to feel. You also are a little less mobile as a tank, which I kind of derped in the dungeon footage earlier today because I wasn't adhering to the fact that I could get around a little earlier or a little faster to move between my party members. But you'll be able to definitely withstand plenty of damage. Big execute? Nah, no execute crit. Dang. How about big execute? Dang. No. How about this one? Dang. No crits. You'll be tankier, which is your point, right? Would be a tank. But as you already can tell if you look at any of the initial discussion about the prot warrior, many of your talents have moved, and some of them make you go, oh no. So we'll go through all of that as we continue on here. So something you'll probably never use is protection. Whirlwind. It costs 30 rage. So does shield block. Revenge costs 20 rage. Does more damage and applies deep wounds. Whirlwind is one of those returning spells like Slam for Fury that really only exists to be part of the RPG unpruning to bring back abilities that you may have lost in the past that should be, I guess fundamentally and thematically, made a new word, part of the overall warrior kit, because the spell book is back to being class and then spec, right? You can go through and look at the other spec abilities and see all the different talent or I guess rank ups of everything, how it works out. But Whirlwind will not be used. I highly doubt it. It could have something in Torghast. No idea. But it's too weak. It hits 5 nearby targets, whereas Revenge hits everything in front of you. It does have the reduced damage fall off, which we'll get into a little bit later. But it also applies deep wounds, which is just a lot of extra attack power based bleed damage, which ignores armor. So big ups there. So not sure you'll ever really see that. Additionally, something big that I went over in the other warrior videos, but I can't imagine you're going to watch every single one of them. So just to recap here with Shattering Throw. And I have some notes that I can add to this one, and then I'll reiterate those in the overall warrior video coming up next. Shattering Throw is a 3-minute cooldown, 1.5 second cast, not reduced by haste, that deals some pretty heavy physical damage, ignores armor, and removes any magical immunities, and deals 500% increased damage to absorbs. Now, it works on Power Word Shield, Frost DK, Shield. It does not do pass-through damage, meaning that it will do heavy damage to the shield, but if it completely removes the shield, the absorb effect, it'll do 1 damage to the target, not a bunch. The only caveat to that is ignore pain. On other warriors, ignore pain. All 3 warriors have it now. It's a 50-50 split. So the actual Shattering Throw will react to the fact of doing 500% more damage, but then half goes to the warrior's face and half goes to the ignore pain. It has no interactions with, and I repeat, it has currently no interactions with the DK Anti-Magic Shell. It's an absorb, but it's spell absorb. It does not work and remove the Havoc Demon Hunter Netherwalk, because Netherwalk is not an immunity. It is a 100% damage reduction. It completely misses Hunter's Affect of the Turtle. It also will not remove Cloak of Shadows on rogues. If it does remove something, Shattered pops up above their head. It's a new like little text prompt. It works on Blessing and Protection from Paladins. It works on Divine Shield from Paladins. It works on Mages Ice Blocks. If Mages have Glacial Insulation, which is they get Frost Armor after their block is removed, that'll automatically proc. It will not double dip on things. If you have an Absorb Shield and an immunity, it will remove the immunity and not touch the Absorb Shield. So if you have a Power Word Shield behind a bubble, for example, it'll just remove the immunity and the bubble's fine. So it will not do shenanigans like that. It does huge damage on bosses. I threw a 5.5k Shattering Throw against the boss at the end of the Mists of Tyrannith Scythe video and the dungeon we did with the warrior testing a couple days ago. 5.5 thousand damage was more than any other single target ability that you could even cast on the entire warrior kit. Granted, it's a cooldown, but it did huge damage to those shields. Additionally, I sort of misspoke in the previous video, and I'll update this again in the overall warrior video, where I said you're able to interrupt the cast. That was meant to be a thing because you're channeling the spell, the 1.6 second throw. You can interrupt it. You can't be interrupted. So we tried Priest Silence, we tried Solar Beam, we tried Pummel. You cannot be interrupted. So to correct myself, you cannot be locked out of it at all, but you can cancel with like a cancel cast macro if in case you want to throw it and then the mage, turns off block, or someone else gets it, like a master spell goes out there, or the bubble isn't on the paladin anymore. You can cancel it yourself and not throw it, of course, because you can just move while channeling it, while casting, or you can have a macro that like casts and then stop casts, for example, to make sure you get that and not put it on cooldown. It's a 3-minute cooldown. So just to go on that one. All right, let me scroll down this whole page. Before we get into a bunch of little things, additionally, the Retribution, the Arms and Fury warriors also had aura changes, but Protection has a 5% extra plus 5% damage aura in BFA. Many abilities you might be seeing in the database are showing nerfs. Actually, a lot of them are buffed when I really got through all this. but that is because they remove the aura back to 0, so they have to remove some damage from abilities. So the biggest one they hit, which is most of all I saw being removed specifically, was Thunderclap. Thunderclap is definitely not going to be anywhere near as much damage as it currently is, and has been sort of plaguing the balance team that Blizzard has been trying to figure out how to make Thunderclap reined in. Obviously, some talent adjustments are going to rein in Thunderclap. But Thunderclap, for example, is a 50% attack power buffed spell in BFA. It's 42% in Shadowlands, and you lost the 5% aura. So Thunderclap is not very strong. If I actually tab over here to my overall trash fights and encounters for an entire dungeon run, if I look over at the overall summary of damage done, my damage across an entire 26-minute long dungeon run, Thunderclap was barely 7% of my damage. A lot of the damage from the Prot Warrior now is obviously going to be in melees. We had a Wind Fury Totem in the group. Wordup was there, so more melee attacks. But it's really all Shield Slam, Revenge, Deep Wound. I ran Ravager in the dungeon run, so Ravager did some big things there. But Thunderclap was definitely way down there, kind of like with Devastate damage, and Devastate really is only there to be a catalyst for resets and for deep wounds on single target, right? So Thunderclap's definitely taking a hit. But Revenge is huge, which, you know, as we continue forward here, you have other ranks of spells coming in. Avatar rank 2 will give you 10 more rage when you cast Avatar, so it'll give you 30. That's fine. Shield Wall is getting a big buff. It's going up 10% additional damage reduction. So Shield Wall will be 50% DR for 8 seconds. That's huge. That is probably easily the single most, I think it is, the single strongest one-button damage reduction in the entire game at the 50% mark. And that's, of course, all damage. Granted, 4-minute cooldown can still, of course, be interacted with anger management. More on that in a moment. So, ability adjustments. I already went with Thunderclap. Big one. But this ties in to the damage fall-off windows. So you see there, reduced damage to secondary targets. Same thing with Revenge. Deals reduced damage to secondary targets. This is the square root law or formula that Blizzard is now putting in to scale down mass AoE. There's no target caps herein. On that side note, Dragon's Roar has none of this shenanigans, so Dragon Roar will still be looked at rather favorably because it deals full damage to Earthen. But Thunderclap deals reduced damage. Both of these will deal full damage to whatever you're targeting, and then they will do the full damage it's supposed to do, divided by the square root of the targets you hit. That is how Thunderclap will work. And that's how Revenge on the initial hit will also work. Other little things, Shield Slam went up from 80-ish% attack power to 85% attack power. Devastate actually got a slight buff as well, going from 33 to 35% attack power. Deep Wounds is also a little bit stronger, going up 3.5% on the attack power. And then Revenge, it now costs 20 rage, down from 30, no longer has a 3-second cooldown. It is now changed to a 3 times haste RPPPPM scale. Now, real procs per minute is a little bit strange. So you're not going to see it proc when I'm just smacking a target dummy here. And I did a lot of standing around getting smacked in the face in the A, the dungeon, and B, in the open world. It does feel that you will use it less often. As a proc, I will definitely say, from what I've seen so far, you have to, because of the damage of Thunderclap and the fall-off damage and damage equals threat, Revenge hitting so much harder and applying deep wounds, aggressively hitting Revenge is sort of par for the course, at least in the crappy gear we have right now. But it is also buffed up to 63% attack power from 46, but it still does the reduced damage on secondary targets. So a pretty big one there. It is definitely going to be where a lot more of your damage is going to be found in the Prot Warrior. Vanguard got buffed a little bit. I think it's mostly because of the number squish, though. It's still 45% stamina. There's another rank of it that you get when you're leveling up. It's now 75% strength to armor, which is only 60% in BFA. It's a little more armor there. Talents now. You lost Safeguard and Vengeance. Those are both gone. I almost said Vigilance. That's been gone since Mop. Thank goodness. Remember sitting down, getting crit to get more Vigilance to do more damage. Actually, it was Vengeance. Vigilance was a different ability. Are you paying attention? Are you paying attention? Okay, good. So Safeguard is gone, but going back over what Intervene is not... It's better though, because you can take all the damage away from your co-tank, whereas Safeguard was only 30% of that damage. But I think it only worked on melee and range the same way, but that doesn't mean you can... 70% of the damage still went through to your other tank, which now you can take all to your face. And then Vengeance was like the weird back and forth. What was it again? Like, no one ever used this crazy thing. Ignore pain reduces revenge, and revenge reduces ignore pain. Yeah, get that hell out of here. Talents added. This is also, to go back from earlier, double time. So you have charge back. You don't have intercept. So you can take double time. It's the 1 extra charge of charge and the cooldown reduction. In BFA, you currently have the 2 charges of intercept, which allows you to choose defensive or offensive. It definitely came up in chat today quite a bit. Using them in that way, now you have 2 separate abilities. Even if Intervene is way stronger, having the use of mobility of its Rumbling Earth is just the cooldown reduction on Shockwave, and Stormbolt is the single target stun. So if you need the mobility, it's there for you. So in a way, you get more because you'd have 2 charges of charge, and then 1, of course, of your Intervene. On top of course, you can still take Bounding Stride, and you still have Heroic Leap, right? So there's a bit of a change in your baseline mobility. If you don't need the stuns, you can take more mobility. But if you don't need the mobility, you can take the CC. Those are supposed to be talent choices. I ran Rumbling Earth today because we did a dungeon, so I wanted to AoE stun things. All right. There's a graphic, or not a graphic. I have to show a picture for this next one. War Machine is also new in here. All warriors have this. The 50% more rage on auto attacks is fine. The big one here is killing an enemy instantly generates 10 rage and increases your movement speed by 30% for 8 seconds. Sure. This is either bugged or hilarious. As you see on screen right now, these are all war machines giving me more rage. As you see, I'm over energized because there was also many mobs that died right before I took this screenshot. I'm also nowhere near these mobs when they died. I am easily 60 plus or so yards away. And the weird thing about the rage generation from War Machine does not require an actual killing blow. It doesn't currently even require you to tag the mob just to be in your party. It is possibly tied to the XP flag now, and it, like I said, procs and gives you rage from the other side of the world. In a raid group, you have to be in combat or at least tags mobs that die. Raid is different because the XP flagging is different in raids. But in AoE situations, the amount of rage you can get, and you can watch me just overcap quite a bit in the dungeon sometimes when we killed a whole bunch of trash mobs, is a little bit silly. A little bit silly. For sure. But that's because the tier this is on has all been buffed. Impending Victory is now 30% maximum health, up from 20%. And the ability to control your destiny and be tankier is definitely something that is every tank's goal, right? I don't know why I ran back up there to change talents or whatnot, but I have some tomes to burn. Impending Victory and Last Stand is definitely going to be a huge, potentially stronger window of time for you as a tank to control your destiny. I'm going to just blast off this cliff here again and take a whole bunch of damage. Let's go down here to this very angry bird. But 30% now competes against War Machine, which is just tons of rage if you can kill mobs, and a little extra when you're auto-attacking. Punish now has also been changed. It's a 3% for 9 seconds rolling and stacking mechanic, similar to how Iron Fur works, where your Shield Slam deals increased damage just by default. and you take 3 to 6 to 9% less damage from the mob in question that you're shield slamming. It's kind of like Brace for Impact and the Callous Reprisal Azerite traits sort of smooshed together and rolled into Shield Slam. So that's a pretty big one. I realize I just healed up standing here, but this guy will mess me up, no problem. Pull a couple of mobs here. The warrior has obviously the potential to get their HP back, right? But impending victory right now being 20% on live, and it's against Into the Fray. By all counts, you're usually taking Into the Fray, right? Normally, a prot warrior, you're always taking Into the Fray. So this opens up the potential for this talent. So imagine, if you will, you're about to die, like I am right now. Last stand Into the Fray. A little stun action, maybe a double ignore pain. I just healed for 40+% of my health on top of both of those. And then we're gonna run away because that elite totally pipes. So what happened to me there was I last standed, which is obviously the heal and the health move, and then the impending victory huge heal here right there. And then of course you can counteract that once you come out of the big heal with, like I said, double ignore pain to even give yourself more HP in the form of the ignore pain shield. There's something there. And this is obviously, this is every 2 minutes with bolster, or every 3 minutes normally. This is every 30 seconds. It's an offensive health stone. And Punish is just the shield slam window. This is very similar to what both Ret Pally have with like the TV window they can have from their cloak. Also, Protection Paladin has the strength stamina stacking that they get whenever they SOTR to rotate and flow through the SOTR window continuously. So it's similar. Both of the shieldy tanks have this sort of thing. But all three of these could be very situational, which is the whole point of you know, how you tank as a tank. Also, what we got next here? We have Best Served Cold. This is now just a flat 20% damage on Revenge and 50% more damage instead of the 20. So 30% more on the proc when it resets your Revenge. But again, Revenge now has that 3 times haste RPPM, so it's going to proc a little less often, but it's bigger damage all the time when you aggressively Revenge, or of course, when you get those Revenge procs. No longer does it deal the additional 25% more damage up to 5 targets. So it always has a bunch of extra damage baked in, but even more if you get the reset. Devastator remains unchanged. And like I said earlier, Dragon Roar is still there as well. That 35-second, 10 rage, and the extra chunk of damage that doesn't have the AoE fall-off window. Menace is pretty cool. Let me pull 2 turtles here real quick to show off Menace. This is your intimidating shout will knock back all nearby enemies except your primary target, and it also causes them to flee. Still get the fleed target here, but this one got knocked back and is also fleeing, or at least frozen in place for 15 seconds. The menace effect on live just adds 4 seconds and causes them to cower in fear instead of actually running around. So pretty crazy memes here. Some memes. If you can knock people off cliffs, it does have not as much vertical like ascension in the Z axis to push people over cliffs like Dragon Charge or like Thunderstorm. There's the word I'm looking for. Thunderstorm from Elemental Shamans like actually just yeets you because it pushes the character up and then away. This kind of like just scoots you like Typhoon does. So pushing people off cliffs will be a little bit of a mini game for you, but the additional AoE CC where you can sort of break apart a Mythic Plus mob, CC everything around you, and then you can focus target down like the main mob you want to target down, a caster or whatever, while everything else is CC'd for 15 seconds. Of course, it'll break on damage, but it's also a huge positional one where you can push mobs to the side. It kind of has a Ring of Peace potential there. Even if it breaks immediately, you can still position yourself because the menace is based on your positioning, right? So if I pull this goat right here and I pull this little turtle, if I go like this, he's out of my range. Let me go with like one of these. Yeah. You can push mobs out of... Make sure you push mobs out of sunderings. Wordup really appreciates that. But there is something there for the additional layer of CC, which of course competes with Crackling Thunder and Bounding Stride, so situational, of course, when you want to use those. Bolster is probably the biggest thing, and we're finally getting to this one. Bolster, Indomitable, and Never Surrender. They want some revenge. Are they gonna really aggro me all the way out here? All right then, let's go. Bolster now has a huge quality of life improvement. When you cast Bolster now, you will just shield block. We're gonna go back out to the target dummies here in a moment so I can show you that one. So you put up shield block now. You no longer big execute. Damn. You no longer just block during your last stand. This grants you the shield block effect for the duration. Now that is for the duration. And as I hinted at, as we finally got to this point, when you shield block, which is over here now, it's 6 seconds. And shield block by itself, I believe, even if it's not possible, all these kind of effects have usually like a 3 times duration, where you could only ever have, in this case, 18 seconds of shield block. But now, last stand lasts for 15 seconds. So how long do you think you could last in a shield block window? Uptime on shield block is pretty high in the first place, but because you can use Bolster now to give you 15 seconds of shield block, you no longer lose any shield block uptime, because if you cast shield block, let's get some rage here real quick. If you cast shield block, you just add time to the shield block. And then I have Heavy Repercussions currently talented right now, which adds another second to shield block, which works with the Bolster window. So you can very easily have, once you get some actual haste, I got 56 seconds of this, or 54 seconds, 6 seconds shy of a full minute of in the shield block window, which of course you're still a prot warrior, you still have critical block, right? It's still definitely part of the overall kit. You can have block up for a very, very long time. Now, where that will be useful, as I'm still ticking down here. If I had a little bit more haste, I'd be able to refresh right there, and then last stands back up in a minute, just about. There is, obviously it's like a patchworky thing. If the boss is like chopping away at you, how long you can keep your shield block window active. But last stand and Bolster, and you not wasting your shield block uptime on the current version, huge quality of life on that one. Very, very, very big. Indomitable now is the same, except it has the legendary bracers, I believe, which is the 10 rage you spend heals you for 1% of your maximum health whenever you spend that rage. The only thing I can ever think of using Whirlwind is because Whirlwind costs 30 rage and it will heal you for 3% of your health, but still that's like a big So using your revenge offensively more often, of course, costs you 20 rage, gives you 2% of your HP back. That's going to be a thing. Obviously 4% whenever you hit your ignore pain, and then 3% whenever you hit your shield block, because of the 30 rage, every 10 rage is 1% of your health. Also, Never Surrender got buffed. It now has a baseline 40% increase to ignore pain, scaling another 60% up based on your missing health, which is pretty huge. Never Surrender falls into this, is there magic damage? Indomitable falls into this, well, maybe I just want to smooth my damage going out, or damage going into my face, rather. My damage going out from the bosses, I should say. And then Bolster has the, do I need more cooldowns? Do I need to sit in the block window for longer? Indomitable War Machine, lots of rage generation on trash mobs, lots of rage to heal yourself. Impending Victory. Bolster has a huge component for reacting to damage and healing yourself up a lot, but also Impending Victory works really well with Never Surrender for 2 different ways to combat more magic damage. That's a potential there. Obviously, Punish and your Indomitable window could work just fine because you're going to be, actually you're shield slamming all the time, but now you're going to be sitting in this, taking like 4 to 5% less damage from the single target while also healing yourself whenever you use your rage spenders. So again, the tankiness is there, right? The tanky goo is improving. But Into the Fray was nerfed. It's now 2% haste, down from 3% per stack. Booming Voice is buffed. It's now 20% damage, down up from 15. and Unstoppable Force is unchanged. So your sort of DPS row here is very situational. These are all 3 talents you currently basically set and forget in BFA, and now they're all in the same row, which is it stings, but that's how a talent row should feel. Am I AoEing a whole lot with Avatar? Am I taking Anger Management, which also got nerfed in a way? Anger Management now does not cool down your... on live right now, it also works with Last Stand and Demoralizing Shout. So no longer can you take Anger Management to get more Booming Voice, but you can still take Anger Management to get more Unstoppable Force. So there's a trade-off there, but Booming Voice just got buffed overall. So Booming Voice and Punish and Best Served Cold is just straight up just giving you more damage in certain windows. But obviously Booming Voice also synergizes with Dragon's Roar, allowing you to Booming Voice and then Dragon Roar for big AoE burst as well there. So again, the damage has moved, the tankiness has improved, but that you can still feel the nerfs, right? You can feel the sting a little bit. I played a lot of Prot Warrior, as you see I have the Mage Tower. There's a little sting there. But again, Avatar cooling down is fine, but your Anger Management cooling down your shield wall, which is going to be 50% damage reduction. Put it all together. Ravager still has the huge parry chance, so more parry chance equals maybe more Best Served Cold procs, because when you parry, you have a chance to reset make your revenge. You don't reset it anymore. You just make your revenge, in this case, 50% stronger and free. Heavy Repercussions doesn't have the Shield Slam damage anymore. It just has the additional rage. So you can have Heavy Repercussions and War Machine, for example. You can run Devastator, which is just your auto attacks have a chance to keep resetting your Shield Slam. Bit of a haste scaling point though with auto attacks, because hitting Devastate by itself has a 30% chance. The auto attacks here only have a 20% chance, but auto attacking for more damage and then getting more rage from Shield Slams allows you to maybe just use revenge more often, just more aggressively revenge. Be again, Punish, Repercussions, Devastate. There's stuff here, right? There's stuff. I'm gonna stop rambling, because it's a lot of stuff going on in this video, and there's a lot to process, and a lot of things change, some good, some bad. Let me know in the comments down below, what are your thoughts on the adjustments to the Protection Warrior? Booming Voice and Execute? Question mark, right? Yeah. So there's little things there that are like, oh, I like that. But again, of course, if you want to watch any of the testing footage, the dungeon run video to see me, derp around on Prot Warrior, check the video description box down below for the channel guide that is linked down there. And also, if you want to support what I do here on the channel with getting some bits and bobs or pieces and parts for an upcoming build or a current build, a new mouse, new keyboard, whatever you'd like, I've been a huge Corsair fan for a long time before I signed with them as a sponsor and a partner. But if you want to get 10% off your order and free standard shipping in this time, then the link is also down below. I like their stuff, using it for a long time. I recommend it. And if you get anything, of course, let me know on the tech channel in my Discord. If you what you like, what you don't like. If things work, send me your pictures of all of your crazy RGB lights. That's a fun one. But that's it. My name's been Bay. Thank you very much for listening and giving me your thoughts down below on what you think of the Protection Warrior. I will see you all in the wrap-up video, or Hunters are up next.